Throughout history, the fear of the unknown and the unfamiliar has often led to division and conflict. Xenophobia, the irrational fear or hatred of foreigners, has been a recurring theme in human societies. But what drives this fear, and how can someone overcome it? I'm interested in the psychology of this irrational attitude and behavior. Why do certain people act this way? In this video, we will delve into the psychology of xenophobia, its causes, historical examples, and the best ways for individuals and communities to foster understanding and inclusivity. Xenophobia is a complex phenomenon that can be traced back to several psychological and social factors. Let's break down the key drivers. First, let's look at the evolutionary roots. From an evolutionary perspective, humans are wired to be wary of outsiders. In prehistoric times, unfamiliar groups could pose a threat to resources and safety. This instinct, known as in-group bias, is still present in modern societies, often leading to a preference for those who are similar to us. But it's not just evolutionary. Xenophobia can also be learned. Children often adopt the attitudes and beliefs of their caregivers and the broader community. If they grow up in an environment where fear and distrust of outsiders are prevalent, they are more likely to internalize these views. Then, there's also economics. Economic and social insecurity can exacerbate xenophobia. When people feel threatened by job loss, economic instability, or social change, they may blame immigrants or other marginalized groups, seeing them as a threat to their own well-being. Throughout history, xenophobia has manifested in various forms, often with devastating consequences. Let's look at some notable examples. The Chinese Exclusion Act of 1882 was one of the first major laws to restrict immigration in the United States. It was driven by economic fears and racial prejudice. During the mid-19th century, Chinese immigrants were crucial to the construction of the Transcontinental Railroad and other labor-intensive industries. However, as the economy faced downturns, particularly during the Long Depression of the 1870s, anti-Chinese sentiment grew. White workers, feeling threatened by the influx of Chinese laborers, began to blame them for job loss and wage reduction. This sentiment was fueled by political leaders and media, leading to violent riots and the eventual passage of the Chinese Exclusion Act, which banned Chinese immigration for over 60 years. Probably the most known example is the Holocaust. The Holocaust is a stark example of the extreme consequences of xenophobia and hatred. The Nazi regime's ideology of racial purity led to the systematic genocide of 6 million Jews and other marginalized groups, including Romani people, disabled individuals, and political dissidents. The roots of this genocide can be traced back to deep-seated anti-Semitic beliefs in Europe, which were exacerbated by economic instability and political turmoil in the early 20th century. The Nazi Party, led by Adolf Hitler, capitalized on these fears, promoting a narrative of Jewish responsibility for Germany's economic and social problems. This rhetoric dehumanized Jews and other groups, making it easier to justify their persecution and eventual genocide. One more example of note is the Rwandan genocide. The Rwandan genocide was a brutal conflict driven by ethnic tensions between the Hutu and Tutsi groups. Over 800,000 people were killed in just 100 days, highlighting the devastating impact of dehumanization and xenophobia. The roots of this conflict can be traced back to colonial policies that favored the Tutsi minority and created deep-seated resentments among the Hutu majority. After Rwanda gained independence in 1962, political and economic instability further fueled these tensions. In the early 1990s, Hutu extremist leaders used media, particularly radio, to spread hate speech and dehumanize the Tutsi population. This propaganda led to widespread violence and the systematic killing of Tutsis and moderate Hutus, demonstrating the power of dehumanizing rhetoric in inciting mass violence. Despite the different contexts and historical periods, there are common themes that underlie xenophobic behavior. There's dehumanization. Dehumanization is a key factor in xenophobia. When a group is portrayed as less than human, it becomes easier to justify discrimination and violence against them. During the Holocaust, Jews were labeled as vermin and parasites, dehumanizing them and making their persecution seem justified. There's also fear and uncertainty. Fear and uncertainty are powerful emotions that can fuel xenophobia. When people feel threatened by change or the unknown, they may lash out against those who are different. This fear can be manipulated by political leaders and media to create division and control. In Rwanda, economic and political instability created a sense of fear and uncertainty, which was exploited by Hutu extremists to incite violence against the Tutsi population. Another key factor is lack of exposure and understanding. A lack of exposure to diverse cultures and a lack of understanding can perpetuate xenophobia. When people have limited interaction with those who are different, they are more likely to rely on stereotypes and preconceived notions. In the United States, the isolation of Chinese immigrants in Chinatowns and the lack of integration with the broader community contributed to the persistence of anti-Chinese sentiment. So, how does someone overcome xenophobia? Well, education and awareness is key. education is a powerful tool in combating xenophobia. By learning about different cultures, histories, and perspectives, we can challenge stereotypes and build empathy. Schools, community centers, and online platforms can play a crucial role in promoting cultural awareness and understanding. For example, in post-genocide Rwanda, education programs have been implemented to teach the history of the genocide and promote reconciliation and tolerance. It's no surprise then that many authoritarian leaders want to control school curriculum. We should also be promoting positive contact. Positive contact with people from different backgrounds can break down barriers and reduce prejudice. Community events, cultural festivals, and interfaith dialogues provide opportunities for people to connect and learn from one another. We also need to challenge harmful rhetoric and media representation. Journalists, activists, and educators can work to promote accurate and respectful portrayals of diverse groups, countering the narratives that fuel fear and division. Media outlets can play a crucial role in highlighting positive stories and promoting inclusive narratives. And of course, we need to enact legal protections. Strong policy and legal frameworks are necessary to protect the rights of marginalized groups and hold individuals and institutions accountable for xenophobic behavior. Anti-discrimination laws, hate crime legislation, and inclusive policies can create a safer and more equitable society. In Germany, the government has implemented stringent hate crime laws and educational programs to combat xenophobia and promote social cohesion. Particularly in the wake of the Holocaust, xenophobia is a complex issue, but it is not insurmountable. By understanding its roots, learning from history, and taking proactive steps, we can build a more inclusive and compassionate world. Each of us has a role to play in promoting understanding, respect, and unity. Let's commit to being part of the solution and creating a brighter future for all. Thank you for watching. Please like to support my channel.